wailing in the woods. The forest was a living entity that night, its ancient trees whispering secrets in a language only the wind understood. The moon, a pale sliver in the ink-black sky, cast long, grotesque shadows that danced across the forest floor like spectral tricksters. We were 5 friends, Jess, Mark, Tanya, Ryan, and me, Alex. Drawn together by a shared thirst for adventure, we had embarked on this midnight sojourn into the forest's shadowy depths. We were searching for a hidden clearing deep within the woods rumored to be a gateway to another dimension. Most dismissed the local legends as quaint folk tales. But the faint susurration of voices through the leaves and glimpses of odd light shimmering between the gnarled trunks led us onward. The farther we ventured from the sleepy rural town nestled at the wood's edge, the heavier the air seemed to grow. A persistent chill seeped through our jackets to cling clammily to bare skin like spectral caresses. Mark nervously fingered the lucky rabbit's foot on his keychain while Jess hugged herself and muttered it felt like unseen eyes tracked our progress. Only Tanya and Ryan maintained a semblance of bravado, loudly daring the unknown observers to show themselves. Their reckless words sent anxiety skittering down my spine on icy spider legs. When an unearthly wail echoed suddenly through the dense trees, I nearly screamed. Instead, it was Mark who cried out. Jess muffled her sobs against Tanya's shoulder. Ryan swore vehemently, eyes darting about for the sound's origin as I stood paralyzed. The ghastly cry peaked then trailed slowly away like the death rattle of a butchered animal. In the answering silence, raucous nocturnal calls tentatively resumed from creatures accustomed to the rhythms of life and death in the wild woodlands. Heartbeats gradually steadied as no further psychic assault disturbed the shadowy tableau. Ryan nervously suggested returning home before worse occurred. But obsession glinted brightly within Tanya's eyes. We're close now, I can feel it. Don't wimp out when we're so near to discovering if those old stories are true. Ryan bristled at the implied slur on his courage but seemed to waver. Dude, think about it, most legends sprung up around real dangers lurking in places people shouldn't go sticking their noses. This screaming probably warns of quicksand pits, toxic plants or sinkholes. Nature's way of saying turn back. But Tanya would not be swayed, challenging each of us in turn to continue onward and confront the dark whispers head on. Pride and stubbornness kept us plodding wordlessly into gloom, apprehension growing with every step. Until the trees abruptly gave way to a circular clearing bathed in lunar radiance. We halted, peering about uncertainly. Sinister shapes loomed at the periphery, backlit by that eerie glow. Mark yelped as one contorted mass of darkness suddenly detached itself from the surrounding forest to shamble slowly forward into the silvered light. Jess screamed, stumbling backward over an exposed root into Ryan's arms. Heart lurching into overdrive, I gaped as the misshapen figure shambled closer, man or beast or chimera evolution neglected. Stay behind me, Tanya, I managed to gasp, pushing her trembling form behind my pathetic shield. She offered no resistance, hiding her face against my back as the thing shambled closer on its uneven limbs. I discerned a roughly bipedal form swathed in ragged, filthy robes masking its true anatomy save for one elongated arm sprouting wicked talons. A moist sucking rasp emanated from folds of skin concealing the facial features. Fear rooted me to the spot, mesmerized by impending horror while primal instinct screamed silently to defend Tanya. The gangrel creature paused, surveying us wheezing intruders with what might have passed for amusement in a face less hideous. Then the malformed lips creased back impossibly far into a rictus grin displaying jagged fangs glistening blackly in the moonlight. An ecstatic sigh escaped the fanged maw, the taloned claw rising with evident relish to beckon us closer to our doom. Jess and Mark clasped each other tightly, weeping quietly while Ryan stood mouth agape behind them. but my limbs remained paralyzed by atavistic dread as Tanya whimpered against my back. Then the creature threw back its cowled head, and wailed. An eldritch cry to cleave reality's fabric in twain shuddered the very air. Sound beyond sound, it resonated through mind, marrow and moldering oak alike, broadcasting agony and rage cycled through the centuries since its long ago birth in madness, violence or cursed rite. We fled without conscious intent, yourselves reduced to vehicles for self-preservation instincts eons old, no intellect nor sentience to question the rightness of actions propelling fragile meat suits between iron-hard trunks and grasping undergrowth. Bracken which clawed cruelly at pounding legs and straining lungs, gulping air already saturated by the unseen ravager's wild song crackling along nerve endings. Barbed tendrils of unhallowed chant seemed to reel fleeing forms back toward the dread presence at our heels. Glancing over my shoulder, I glimpsed Jess stumble, then lifted effortlessly into darkness by a gray tentacle, only her wailing borne back to us by the ravening hunt taking her life essence before our appalled gazes. Mark's fragile courage shattered into hysteria at his lover's loss. Reason fled before the unreasoning imperative to escape his own imminent harvesting. He veered away from our tight huddle of survivors without warning or coherent plea, flinging himself into the grasping wilderness. Mere heartbeats later, his soul-freeing shriek faded behind as we crashed on through clinging bracken. Ryan kept Tanya sheltered against his broad chest, while I felt sanity's strained moorings slackening before the psychic gale threatening to hurl me into reality's maw. Hard-won miles meant nothing to the thing's implacable will which toyed with us. No horse pleas to uncaring deities could sway the inexorable doom closing icy claws around our frail quintet. Then Ryan betrayed us too. It relishes terror. Take Tanya and go, I'll draw it away. This gasped pledge before he shoved Tanya into my faltering grasp and sprinted back from whence we'd fled with a courageous roar. On racked legs I drove Tanya and myself over the rutted terrain, the dwindling well seeming now obeying, exulting paean heralding the rending of Ryan's stubborn pride and pearls of sanity slowly collected since first casting helpless form from mother's womb into a world of fleshly joys and sorrows. His bravery granted me a few precious minutes to lose our unearthly pursuer. Still clasping Tanya closely as shield and reason for survival, I dove into a lightless hollow formed by the exposed roots of a towering oak, dragging my last precious ward down into darkness beside me. We huddled there gasping raggedly, clamping hands over mouths to muffle any sound. My mind reeled with traumatic images of lives terminated mere hours ago in merry companionship. Now our intrepid quintet was reduced to a devastated duo crouched and whimpering in primordial funk while somewhere in the unseen reaches, an obscene intelligence gloated over its kills, already absorbing strengths and images from broken vessels. Gradually the susurration of leaves and Tanya's hoarse breathing restored some equilibrium, keeping incipient madness at bay. Clarity reinforced desperate purpose. We two survivors must escape this gauntlet. I forced my voice steady, whispering urgent instructions to Tanya. We would stay low, keep to deer trails too narrow for our stalker, make no sound to betray us as we wended back by painstaking degrees through the labyrinthine wood to freedom. Tanya's eyes drank the moonlight, reflecting my own stark terror in their depths. Yet she nodded jerkily, sanity's frail lifeline pulling her slowly back from the screaming brink we all had blindly courted. Together now we clung to survival's fragile thread, yearning light and life too long taken for granted just scant hours earlier in our passage through these ancient groves. So grim odyssey commenced on scraped knees and claw-torn palms, fervent prayers mouthing soundless against crumbling bark. Each new tree granted transient haven from the possessed air trailing us. By incremental erosion of will and desperate faith we battled to reclaim those lost miles, one slowly back from the raptor rejoicing still within this dread realm fashioned from its timeless damnations to drag souls screaming into its unending night. Tanya faltered first when gloom before us birthed sudden movement. I turned just in time to view the evisceration of her last defenses. For our grim stalker stood framed within an oak's splintered outline not 10 feet distant. Sudden certainty of defeat and doom roared through mind, unleashing madness kept tightly leashed those endless hours past. With a soul-rending cry I leapt at the hideous apparition, determined to tear it apart in avenging fury or perish in the attempt. But encounter with those merciless talons never came, for the misshapen horror wavered and dissolved, reforming into a shadow-cloaked phantom with eyes twin gleaming coals and fanged maw now grimacing only inches from my face. As clammy exhalations of the grave bathed rigid countenance in the spectre's triumph and gloating assurance of prolonged revenge upon the defiant pup that dared imagine escape or victory, small rational portion of dazed brain understood ghastly truth at last. We never fled the ritual site or its demented guardian, trapped fast within cunning web of illusion. Victims fled only further into the core where dread penumbra ruled, and now sought transport to unknowable destinations beyond nightmare shores where eager new vistas of suffering awaited fresh human vessels to populate this pocket inferno spawned by the guardian's stolen dominion over frail men's souls. Even now concussive force tore my lacerated essence free from its chain and dross matter that slumped gray and lifeless beside the saul tree's gnarled roots,